Welcome to the Community Forum. My name is John Guglieltino and I'm your host. This evening we're changing gears and going back to the political realm. With me this evening is Gary, help me, Goncalves, right? I got that right?
Almost as tough as Guglieltino.
Right. Okay, he's candidate for mayor here in Danbury, and we're going to be talking about his campaign. And I want to start off with asking you, give us a little bit of a background for those people in Danbury that haven't been around as long as we have.
Okay. Right, John. Well, I'm born and raised in Danbury. I went to public schools, graduated from high school from the great class of Danbury High in 1972. Played a lot of ball in the city, both baseball growing up and football, little football in high school, and a lot of men's softball, when I became of age. So I've participated in many community activities in Danbury, and I'm very proud to call it still my home.
I was cross town, but don't hold that against me.
No, not at all.
Okay. Why are you running for mayor? A lot of people would say, hey, you're set, Gary, you got a good corporate job and, and such, and why are you making this move?
Well, John, that's a good question, and let me start off by saying a lot of people don't realize that I've been behind the scenes in Democratic politics in Danbury for many years. Going back to the Bill Ratchford days, I worked on his campaign. I worked on a number of mayoral campaigns. This past election, I threw some support in for both Bill Malillo and Dwayne Perkins. So I've been in touch with the political scene, and I've kept my hands in, and I've obviously observed what's been happening. And the real reason I'm running for mayor is that over the past 8 years now, since this current administration has been in, I have been growing very concerned about the non-progress of this city and the amount of indebtedness and tax increases that we've seen. And again, I am a taxpayer myself, and I think it's just time for a change, and I believe that where I am in my career at this point, both professionally and on a personal level, affords me the opportunity to step up into this arena and actually run for mayor. It's a position that I have the skills to not only win the election, but also do, I believe, a great job as mayor of the city of Danbury.
So, what do you think about an administration that's doubled its debt, over the previous mayor, and got into all of the things they seem to be doing? On one hand, they make it sound like they're cutting spending, and then on the other hand, you see that their total number of employees has actually gone up. So there's not really any cutting going down. It just seems to be smoke and mirrors. We go up. We go up on one side, and the other hand is going down, and people, you don't know where the little ball is underneath the little things circulating on the table. You never know where the little white ball is, I should say.
John, you raise a good point here, and again, this is one of the reasons that I've decided to run for mayor. I think, we've had 8 straight years of tax increases. Along with that, this administration has bonded more in 7 years than the previous Democratic administration did in 12. I'm very concerned about our amount of indebtedness. I'm sure we'll talk about the budget at length in the future, but $13.8 million of this current budget is going to pay bond indebtedness, and that is not the total amount that we're going to be paying, because some things haven't hit that yet. Right. And that constitutes 7% of our current budget we're paying for long-term debt.
Right, so we've got a lot of things like that. I mean, I'm going to skip around some notes I did from before, but, you referred to this debt. Well, where did it come from? Well, for many years, previous administrations thought, well, it'd be nice to have a firehouse on the west side, but because I want to keep the indebtedness low, we won't do it this year. The same with police station. For many years, it was like a case of we should do something about a police station, but not right now. now, or maybe we'll do something a little cheaper, come up with a plan. It seems like this mayor all of a sudden has said, hey, well, there seems to be demand for this, and there's bonding available for this, so let's just bond it. So what do you think about that, doing it all in a 4-year period or whatever?
Well, and there's another one you kind of left out. I think this Ellsworth Avenue School is another example, too, and I'm going to just stick on that for a second. I mean, one of the school board options, rather than lay off teachers in this past year, was to potentially close an elementary school, yet we're spending millions of dollars on a school that hasn't even opened yet. So, I mean, again, that's another one to throw into the mix. I think, you know, God bless the police officers, and they've been in cramped quarters for years, as we know. They've outgrown their facilities. I think it was really time for a new police headquarters, and I think they deserve, you know, a new police headquarters. I think the only issue I have, John, is when you look at the headquarters that was built,
it's huge.
I mean, again, it looks to me like it more belongs on Deer Hill Avenue as one of the mansions. Right. So I have to cringe at, you know, I'm a fiscal conservative. My corporate background, you know, leads me that way, and I just have to think that we spent a lot of extra money making that police station look the way it does, and I have to admit it's beautiful. But I think, you know, rather than lay off teachers, I would have rather seen that money spent in better ways.
Well, that's like a little segue into the budget itself. Mm-hmm. Anybody that really examines the budget and has, you know, went through the hearing process and all will know that there was something it's predicated on that actually hasn't happened yet. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I think, and in a press release that I did create and put together, I talked about that there's some falsehoods in this budget. I think the mayor did a very good job of presenting the budget to the public, and I think the public probably got a very false sense of security in the way that it was presented. The point you bring up is there's at least $2.1 million of projected income based on some leasing of 13 acres that we own on the west side, which has not even come before the ad hoc committee. The ad hoc committee that was formed to talk about that hasn't even met yet, yet they're projecting $2.1 million of projected income in the budget. I mean, so that's not being upfront with the citizens of this town.
So that could fall through, and then you got a 2.1 million hole in the budget.
A hole there, and I can only think that it would come from our fund balance. And again, my hope is that, you know, between the state aid that the mayor had proposed and projected, as well as this kind of projected income, if those fall through, we got to go back to fund balance, it would seem to me. And
what's the ramifications in that?
Well, the fund balance does predicate our bond rating status, and as you know, and this mayor was fortunate enough to come into a AA+ rating from, you know, on the heels of the prior administration, the Earl administration. So, but
that could affect the rating. It could go down.
It could,
and
depending
increase
on how much was borrowed from that fund balance. Yes.
Right. So if you take enough money out, the rating could go down and our borrowing costs go up.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right. So.
As far as the budget, John, I mean, my overall impressions, if you want to just stay on that for a second,
right.
You know, the mayor couched it as only a 1% increase, but I think, you know, again, it preserves the track record of this administration by having 8 straight years of consecutive tax increases, and this is something that's unprecedented in city history, as well as the amount of bonding revenue that he has incurred in his tenure, which is exorbitant in my mind.
And even though a lot of homeowners have been burdened, he's really burdening the business side to the extent that I'm hearing that people are thinking of relocating their businesses to another town.
Well,
and that's what happens when you overburden one segment of the population, and you start to lose your base.
Well, you got 2 themes here, John. I think one is on the taxpayer, you know, citizen side, and again, I'm concerned about, first of all, our young You know, taking educators out of the classroom is something I am vehemently against because of the fact that our kids today are competing in a global economy for jobs in this country with children that are highly educated from other countries. On the other end of that spectrum, you have the senior citizens who are locked into fixed incomes, and with all these tax increases, makes it very difficult for them. And then you got the people who are kind of sandwiched in the middle, you know, people like you and myself who, you know, we're trying to put food on the table, we're trying to pay our mortgage, and we're trying to send our kids to college. So this, you know, between the tax increases and this level of indebtedness that we've run ourselves into here has a profound effect on this city for many years to come. And you talked about the corporations and people thinking about leaving, and also we need to attract business into the city. If you walk Main Street, I mean, the amount of empty storefronts is just shocking. And one of the other things that concerns me about this administration is the fact that we went from a full-time economic development director to somebody who's going to work 15 hours a week, and that whole situation was something that I'd love to expound on. And after the recent budget adoption, it's turned into a coordinator's job. And I think, you know, we need a full-time economic director. We don't need somebody to necessarily work with the businesses that might be coming here. We need somebody to go out and attract businesses to this community and solidify and increase that corporate tax base.
Right, that's true. Now let's change gears and talk about the corporate revisions, or the charter, I should say, revisions that they've tried to do and what the final effects were. Yeah,
I think the biggest thing in the charter is the fact that, again, this was a charter commission that was constituted by the mayor. It was heavily Republican-laden, and one of the things when the first charter revisions first came out, they were proposing $5 million per year in bonding and indebtedness that did not have to go out to the public for voting. They also proposed in that charter that city officials, the council, and the mayor would get elected for 4-year terms rather than 2. So if you add that up, a sitting mayor that's in for 4 years and could spend up to $5 million per year without having to go to the public, that would have meant that mayor had the authority to bond $20 million to the city of Danbury without going out to the electorate. And thank God that was defeated, because certainly, you know, I got up and spoke about the need to have 2-year terms. I think the citizens of this town have the right to reconfirm and renew their confidence in their city officials every 2 years. And I think the city officials, I think it's incumbent on them, if they're running again for office, to get out, to shake hands, to talk about, you know, to talk to people and let them know where they stand on their positions. So I think that's very important. And the bond indebtedness, again, to me, right now, the charter, the current charter that's going to be voted on with changes in November, says that the most the mayor can allocate in a year is $500,000. Now, based on our, you know, in this day and age, $500,000 may not be enough, but I think $5 million was, you know,
way too much.
Well, too much. Yeah.
Yeah. You think they take
too much power
to some kind of happy medium or something?
Well, and actually, that's what they did adopt, is 2.5 a year. Yeah. But still, the 2-year terms.
No, I mean to start out with, rather than going for brokes.
That was a big hit.
Yeah. What is your vision for the future of the town? You know.
Well, I've got a number of visions. I think the first thing is, you know, we've got to get a handle on our tax increases and bond indebtedness. I think we need to take a fresh look at taxes. I would like to see some kind of tax reform where the seniors don't get hit as hard. I'd like to see a tax reform where the members of our community who serve on the police and fire departments perhaps get some kind of a tax break as an incentive to keep them in town, so when we have a big event that we need immediate response to, that those people are living in town. I think the quality of life in the city has to be improved. I think, you know, what's happened with this whole argument about ICE has really drawn a lot of criticism, really, not only within the state. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people in high positions in this state, and frankly, Danbury is considered an embarrassment because of this whole ICE situation. I think it's polarized our community, and I think one of my big agenda items would be to reunite this community. We've always been a united community in the past. All the different constituencies, you know, growing up here, John, whether it be the black community, the white community, the Asians, we all played together nicely. In fact, growing up, you know, to me, the only thing I knew about prejudice growing up was if you couldn't throw the ball, catch the ball, or run the ball, you played the line.
Right.
And the only thing I knew about politics at that time is if you brought the ball, you could play wherever you want. So I think we got to get back to those times, John.
Yeah, that's very much the truth.
Yeah.
What do you feel about the schools in general and the budget cut that
I think the budget cut is very unfortunate. I mean, I've gone on record as saying on Al Robinson's show right on this channel that I'm very pro education. I've seen the effects of outsourcing, and I think it's only going to get worse. You know, General Rhee, the company for whom I work, like many other companies, are outsourcing jobs to save money. And you know, I've been to countries like India and Poland, and I've seen the children there. They're very smart, they're very driven, they're very highly educated, and they're hungry. And our kids, again, as I said, are competing for jobs in this country with them. And I just fear, whenever I hear the word, you know, removing educators from the classroom, and this year alone, we're losing 21 out of that education budget. And again, going back to the city budget that just got adopted, this is the first year in the city's history that no local tax dollars have gone to increase the school board budget. And again, to me, I think we have to invest in our future.
Very good. So how is your campaign in general going?
You know, John, the campaign is really off to a very fast start. I came out early in March. I had my announcement event, and I did it for a couple of reasons. First of all, I wanted to make sure that I, you know, had a head start on any other potential Democratic candidate who might want to come out. And basically, a few months leading to that announcement, I had met with a few people who basically said that they would not oppose me. The second reason is I think to beat an incumbent, you have to get out early, you have to rally support around you, and you have to do the needful things, and we've been doing those things. Things such as, I've got a website, we're going to be on all the electronic media.
You want to share it with
Sure. It's a very difficult name to remember. It's called www.electgarymayor.com. So we've opened our own headquarters, I think, which gives the Democratic Party a bigger footprint on Main Street in Danbury. As you know, we've got the headquarters, the alleyway through the Palace Theater, and then I'm upstairs in the Empress. I've got 1,400 square feet, and it's just a gorgeous office space.
For those that don't remember, those were the theaters that were downtown.
We have two theaters
the
downtown.
Palace Theater and the Empress Theater next door.
That's how old we are, John.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I think as a whole, I have a very strong campaign organization put together. As you realize, I recently picked up Hillel Goldman as my campaign treasurer. And Hillel brings not only a wealth of experience in the community, but outside the community, he's got a lot of high-level contacts. He is certainly a Democrat at heart and body and spirit, so he's going to help us very much. I've got...
Who else has been helping out? You got a number of in-town people, but you also have out-of-town people, right?
I've got, well, my primary advisors, I think as everybody knows, ex-Mayor Gene Iroquez is one of my heavy hitters, as well as Tom Sadi, the minority leader on the council. I've got a number of other people locally who are involved in the campaign, which I hesitate to mention because I do want them to work seamlessly throughout the community and not be encumbered. Outside the community, I've had meetings with Chris Murphy, Congressman Murphy. I've spoke to Susan Bisowitz, Secretary of State, a few times. Susan arguably is going to run for governor. As I work in Stamford, I took the opportunity to sit with Mayor Dan Malloy, who is a 14-year office holder in the city of Stamford, and the city of Stamford, of course, is a little bit bigger than Danbury, but it shares the same types of problems, and he and I had a very nice visit.
He's running for governor, too, I believe.
I believe he probably will,
yeah,
yes, John.
nice.
And Rudy Marconi, we've chatted a little bit, but we need to get together and have a more formal sit-down. But
yeah, you're talking about the first selectman in Ridgefield.
Exactly, and also I want to get down to New Haven and talk to John DiStefano, because, again, their problems are our problems as well.
Very good. So where do you go from now? From here, you're going to be going door to door pretty soon,
yeah,
and you're starting July 1st, door to door.
No, we're actually going to start perhaps even this upcoming weekend. I mean, we've got walk pieces created, as a bio introduction of me and what skills I bring and what my vision is. We're going to turn, our turret, so to speak, the turret on the tank. We're going to turn that and focus on fundraising.
Right.
We've got a lot of fundraising activities to come, and of course, to unseat an incumbent, we need a lot of funds. So we feel good about that. And basically, it's trying to show up, John. As you know, I've been going to various breakfasts around the area, reaching out to a number of constituencies around the city, and I've got the support already of a number of constituencies.
Can people email you at your website?
They can contact me through my website. People are sending me emails, and actually, the interesting thing is, having grown up here and having a pretty good reputation not only at work but in town as well, I thought I'd have a pretty good outpouring of public support, but quite honestly, it's been more than I even envisioned, and I've got high school kids and college kids at WestCon reaching out to me, and people in the community, people that I don't know, just coming forward and say, we know about you from, my neighbor or my friend or my cousin, and, we want to help you in your campaign. So we think it's time for a change in Danbury, and we're very excited at the opportunity you present.
So what's your website again?
www.electgarymayor.com.
Okay, now we got still a little bit of time.
Sure.
Specifically, all this construction that's happened, what would you say it did to the bonding?
Well,
I know I touched on it before, but
well, here's the thing. I don't think it's really net. It hasn't affected our bonding rating. We still have a AA+, but I think we've achieved that rating because the city fund balance has grown pretty well over the last few years, and I might add, on the backs of the taxpayers.
Right.
So one might say that the taxpayers have incurred the burden of the spending of this administration, because this administration had to increase taxes to allow for $13, $14, $15 million of hit to the current budget to pay long-term debt. So again, 8 straight years of tax increases, John.
Yeah, so that when you increase the fund balance, that can that gives you a lower borrowing cost.
Well,
but eventually it's going to catch up with you.
Well, I mean, there's only so many times you can go back and bleed the stone. I mean, 8 straight years of tax increases is significant. And what the other thing the mayor couched this budget adoption on was the fact that they would push off the phased revaluation. The next phase is pushed off, and this was something that other communities in the state are doing. So the governor and the legislature probably will approve that if they haven't already.
I believe they did.
They did, but that's great for now. But
you're putting off paying for something into the future, and that means even a greater hit down the road.
People are going to get next year. They're going to get hit with this phased reval plus the regular reval that was allocated. Plus, we're probably staring at another revaluation, which would be good because property values have decreased. But again, next year's budget, if you read, and I actually brought the clipping from the school board, and with the mayor giving bifurcated raises that are split, 1.5% now, 1.5%, in the future. Those types of things are all going to come down to roost next year.
Right.
And whoever the sitting mayor is, whether it be Mayor Boughton or myself, we're going to really have a challenge ahead of us. And let the citizens know now. Next year is going to be very, very difficult. And And I can only hope that it does not affect, again, my big fear is taking educators out of the classroom.
See, if the grand list is not growing, it makes it harder to pay for everything.
No.
And it's not growing, obviously,
and it's
with the
not
recession.
going to grow based on a few things. The economy is not good. The fact that we don't have an economic development director beating the bushes for the city of Danbury on a full-time basis. And again, there are people out there in the different communities who are actually scared. They're so polarized by this whole ICE thing that they're actually scared to go out on the street. And I've been told that people actually go out and do their shopping at night because they would be less conspicuous. So, I mean, that's the kind of atmosphere that has been created in this community. And believe me, we've gotten national attention, and not on the good side.
Yeah, it's the negative side, and people,
it certainly is.
People that would have come here, moved their businesses here, are not moving here. They're skipping and going to Waterbury or something.
I know of significant corporations in town where people have told me they've tried to recruit senior executives from as far away as California to come here and work, and they have been told, no, you are that racist, bigoted community in Connecticut, and I don't want my family growing up in that atmosphere.
All right.
True story.
That's really sad that it's gotten to that.
Especially the way, this has always been a community. And if you ask me, going back to your first question, why are you running?
Yeah.
I love the city of Danbury. I always have. I always will. I was born here. Likely I will die here. And I love the state of Connecticut. I think it just affords us so many assets and proximity to the city. And certainly within our city, we have so many great assets. The lake, the Ives Center. We've got the Palace Theater downtown. There are so many great assets here that we're, I don't believe, taking full advantage of.
Yeah, and a lot of the things, including the labor force, it used to be things we could brag about. But when when you go down and get that down and dirty, now all of a sudden people have a little bit of a shame about the place.
Well, it's a shame. And we grew up. This was, and it still really is a blue-collar, middle-class community. I'm half Portuguese and half Sicilian, and certainly I could build you a pretty nice
I always get along with
wall.
Sicilians.
Yeah, it's a good thing to do, John,
Okay.
get along with Sicilians.
Okay. You want to give us your website once again? We've got about a minute left.
It's, again, very difficult to remember, but I think I have it. www.electgarymayor.com. And we just mentioned, John, if you go to the website, you'll see my bio. You'll see a little introductory piece. You'll see my vision. You'll see the latest video from the campaign. And we're going to be putting white papers out there as to where we stand on the budget. The recycling center, which we haven't even talked about tonight. Maybe that's the basis for another show.
We'll recycle the show.
Yeah, we'll recycle that show. But there's a lot of information out there, and we're going to be putting more. So welcome.
I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And I want to thank you, the viewers, for tuning in to the Community Forum. Tune in next week, same time, same station. We'll have another interesting program. Good night for now, and we'll see you then.